Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting Daily December. This is being recorded slightly late, but almost on time. Daily December 2015, day 10. 10. There we go. So Critical Role was last night, which was a really, really good episode. It was just phenomenal. Excuse me for 1 second, because I'm dying of thirst. Much better. All right. Great episode. A lot of really cool stuff happened. I unfortunately had a migraine through the entire thing. I missed a large portion of the middle because it got to the point where I couldn't really concentrate on anything except trying to shut the pain out, which is fun. And then we got to see Christmas, which was so awesome. Like everybody, it was just so good. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that I've run into as a dungeon master that really annoys me from the perspective of a dungeon master, and also from the perspective of a player, because I've seen it from both sides, and it's one of those things that it rubs me the wrong way both ways, and that is, and I hate to use this term because I kind of do it myself, but most people call it min-maxing. Where the entire purpose of playing the game is to create the most overpowered character you possibly can and then just blaze through everything. I as I've told you guys before, I've been running D&D games for over 2.5 years. I've got tons and tons and tons of experience, and I know because of that, and because I've played with so many different groups, I have seen every single class played in very unique ways. And I'm a big fan of creativity in Dungeons and Dragons. Doing things like taking a spell and using it in a very unique way. I had a player, if you guys watched Kingdom of the Kale Isles, the last episode we did, one of the players used prestidigitation to make fire, and used it to basically create a tap so that they could tap a tree and get sap from it because they needed that. And I'd never heard of someone. Technically, the spell itself says that prestidigitation can't generally be used to affect the environment in large ways. However, you can use it to start fires and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what? That's an interesting way. I've never heard of anyone using it. Basically, he created a little blowtorch. And he wasn't doing anything like, sawing a ship in half or something. He was doing something very small, but very important. And so I thought that was really creative, and I let him go ahead and do it because I'm like, that's awesome. It's a new, interesting way to use a mechanic that's already built into the game. That I love. What I don't like is what I call it being lazy, to be 100% honest. And these are the people that they look for loopholes or poorly worded things and then exploit them to make their job easier, to make it so they don't have to be quite as creative in order to play their characters. One of the ones that I have fought people at conventions, because you see it all the time at conventions, I've fought this with my own friends at my own personal tables, is rogues in 5th edition. One of the things that they get, I think at level 2, is called Cunning Action. And it lets them use their bonus action to do one of 3 things. They can dash, meaning they can move really fast. They can disengage, meaning they can run away from someone and they can't get attacked. Or they can hide, which makes them more difficult to see. Does things like break line of sight, things like that. Now, in 5th edition, there is a mechanic created where it says if you attack an enemy from stealth and they're surprised, you get advantage on that attack roll. For rogues, having advantage on their attack roll is really, really important. That's how they do their sneak attack damage, which is their most useful combat ability, because the higher their level, the more just insane damage they do. If you ever watch Critical Role. Vax is their rogue, and like I think right now at level 11, he's rolling like 5d6 or 66 sneak attack damage. That's a lot of damage, and so rogues themselves are built around, as far as their combat usefulness, are built around that sneak attack, and there's a lot of different ways for them to get sneak attack damage. If they attack from stealth, uh, they get the sneak attack damage, because anytime they attack with advantage, they get to add sneak attack once per round. So that's one of the ways that a lot of rogues will use to get that. Also, I mean, there's a ton of different ways to get advantage on a target. So if you use flanking rules, you can do it that way. Also, if the character they're attacking, if they have another enemy by them, the rogue will get sneak attack damage as well. So there's literally tons of ways for rogues to get sneak attack damage. One of the things that I've seen rogues do a lot, and I will fight them on this, specifically, I think it's Lightfoot Halfling rogues. Lightfoot Halflings have this racial feature, because they're small, that they can hide behind a creature medium or larger. And so what I've seen them do is they will have a guy in melee with a bad guy. They'll stand right behind them and shoot him with a crossbow or a short bow or something. And then they'll use their bonus action to hide at the end of their turn, so that the next turn they're attacking from stealth, so that they can get sneak attack damage and all this stuff, and they can get advantage on the roll. That is a really boring way to play the character, because that's all they're doing is they kind of duck down, they go peekaboo, shoot, and duck down again. They're completely safe from any danger, and it's really boring and it's really lazy. And so I've had arguments with people, because here's a newsflash for you guys. A 2-year-old has what's called object permanence. That means when you're playing peekaboo with a 2-year-old and they can't see you anymore, they don't think you vanished. They don't think that you're not there anymore. They assume you were in the last place you were when you disappeared from their view. And that's a 2-year-old. A person in their like 20s or 30s whose life has been built around combat, and they're used to risking their lives on a daily basis and having people attack them and shoot arrows at them. They probably have object permanence as well. They're older than 2 years old. So the actual text of the player's handbook specifically states the DM gets to choose whether or not the opponent is surprised. And the only reason you get advantage is if the opponent is attacked when they're not expecting it, or something similar to that. I'd have to pull out my PHP to actually look at it. So in my rule book, that means if all you do is step behind something and hide so that they can't see you, which all that technically means is they can't see you well. And that's been verified through Mike Merles, and I can't remember the guy that actually is allowed to make those rules. But anyway, so anytime I have a ranger or I have a rogue that does that, I'll go, they're like, oh, and I roll with advantage. I go, why? Well, I'm hidden. I said, yeah. Well, I get advantage. No, they weren't surprised. They knew you were there. Well, no, I stealthed. And I rolled really high, so they couldn't see me. Well, technically, they couldn't see you well. You didn't disappear. You didn't vanish into thin air. They still know you're there. They just couldn't get a good line of sight to you because you hid. Well, that's not fair. No, it's perfectly fair. I want you to play your character in a realistic manner. I want you to be creative. I want you to actually have some peril built in, because otherwise it's a boring game. You know, if your character is super powered and they never have to worry about getting hurt or dying or anything, it's a boring game for everybody involved. And so those are the things that really, really annoy me about some min-maxers. Now, again, I technically could be qualified as a min-maxer because I build my characters specifically so they will be the most powerful version of that character they can be, while still sticking to my character that I've created in my mind. Like, I create backstories and stuff like that when I build characters. And I'm fine with that. If you have a really well-built character, I'm 100% fine with that. However, um, you can have a really well-built character and still be creative with them. If you're lazy with them, I'm going to penalize you every single time. The other one that I see at conventions all the time, we call it guidance spamming. Guidance is a cleric spell. It basically is a spell where you pray to your deity and they give you some guidance. You get an extra d4 that you can add to an ability check. I've seen a lot of clerics that anytime anybody makes an ability check, they go like, oh, guidance, I put guidance on him. And again, it's a way to make the game a little bit easier. And it's lazy. It really is. And one of the things that I've seen work really, really well, guidance, it takes a full action. So in combat, a round is 6 seconds and you get one action per round. So an action takes roughly 6 seconds, anywhere between about 4 to 6 seconds. And it has verbal and somatic components, meaning you have to say something and you have to move your hands to incant this. So I have seen players like in the middle of a conversation, someone's trying to, bluff their way through a conversation. They go, oh, I cast guidance. I go, okay. As soon as you start mouthing the words and touching your friend, because it requires touch, the person you're talking to goes, what the hell are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? Well, you just cast a spell. You basically just asked your God, you basically just sat there and said, please, God, help him lie. He doesn't believe a word you're saying now. It's like, well, that's not what I meant to do. I just wanted to make it. That's what you actually did. And those are the things that really annoy me about, well, again, I call them lazy players. People that just try to exploit the game to make it as easy as possible. That's not the point of the game. The point of the game is to have fun, is to tell a story together, and all good stories have some peril, have some things that make you worry about your characters that you care about. And every so often, characters die and things like that. Like, that's all part of a good story. So, yeah, I've been dealing with this particular issue in one of the games that I actually play in, which is very, very few now. Um, and I've had other people that have talked to me about it. I just kind of bring it up and like, hey, I really don't like this. I'm like, I don't like it either. Um, and while technically, yes, being quote unquote lazy is a perfectly valid way to play, to me, it's not fun. And if I am running the table or if I'm playing the table, um, in general, I'm going to make a lazy player have a very difficult time being lazy. I don't think that adds to being a better D&D player, and I don't think it adds to the story much. And it annoys the hell out of lazy players and power gamers is the other ones that tend to do that a lot, where again their entire purpose there is to just blow through it as quickly as possible and be the most powerful person. It really annoys them when I can sit there and quote and go, actually the rules state this and this, and you are misinterpreting this rule, and Mike Merles made this ruling on it, and Jeremy Crawford made this ruling on it, so technically what you're doing you can't do. And it annoys the hell out of them. It's like, well, that means I have to work harder. No, that means you have to actually play the game the way it's supposed to be played. So, yes, that's my little rant for today. I haven't slept yet. This migraine and my brain just decided I'm not allowed to sleep anymore. So, yeah. I will be making another Daily December today, just so I'm all caught up. But yeah, so if you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, don't be a lazy player. Think, be creative, and play a character, not a collection of numbers and abilities. All right? So that's all for me today. I'll see you guys later today with another Daily December, all right? Bye-bye!